Hey guys, in this video I'm just going to go over my dual strike event and dexterity stuff I did in the Hardcore Necropolis League, my Planet and Trade League. You do this in SSF, but it'd take much longer to get the items for. Basically I just played Bone Shatter till like upper 90s, 97, 98, something like that. Then once I was able to get basically this, Replica Alberons plus a Chaos, Scaling Paradoxica, and then the last piece is Balance of Terror. This is basically the 3 combo that you need to make this skill do absurd damage. So Alberons, Paradoxica, Balance of Terror, everything else can just be kind of whatever, flexible, interchangeable. But those are like the 3 core items to make this skill do absurd damage. And this is probably one of the best builds I think I have put together. I feel like for melee builds, this is the strongest I think I've ever seen melee by far relative to the current meta. This is just absolutely, I would say this like out of control levels of power, but there are competitive builds against this for sure. Absolutely not in the melee, but you know, in some of the casting stuff we've seen, you know, that Penance Brands and the Blade Blast stuff, and there's some other pretty OP stuff. But played this on a jug first, died to a DD. You know, that's some BS, but whatever, it is what it is. Always died to DD, died to DD last league, died to DD before, plenty of times. Just part of the game, it's whatever. So I played Slayer second just because I haven't played a Slayer in forever. And Slayer is pretty dog shit, I would say, honestly. I just have so much gear, and I know the game pretty well that I know what I can do and what I can't do, and I kind of go over why Slayer kind of sucks. And Juggernaut is basically just infinitely better. But I'm just kind of go over what my current gear is, and then I'll just kind of like blah blah blah, ramble through all this, so just kind of recap, and then, you know, if this skill exists in next league, or, you know, if it gets buffed in some indirect way or directly or some whatever reason, I mean, this will be here. So, Paradoxica, Chaos Pen, and then some secondary mod. We don't need attack speed because we're dual strike. We get attack speed from our offense, so we're scaling crit. You could also go like crit multi. There's some other stuff, but crit chance is typically going to be the best. Helmet stuff, these are kind of exclusive to this league, but that suffix mod fixes all of Slayer's accuracy problems. It kind of gives the Jug accuracy scaling, so I don't really have to do much to cap my accuracy on this character. He should be like, you know, 100 accuracy pretty much, 100%. Just from that mod, because we have so much strength, so we're getting 1300 bazillion, you know, accuracy from this. You would probably still go with a helmet a little bit weaker than this. You know, you can't force these mods as easily, but the reservation is just what I landed on. You could use Hunter, like Chaos Pen or something like that, but basically that crit mod, even on a jug, this is the ideal mod. So that Warlord's strength stacking crit chance thing is very strong. Otherwise you just use like whatever rare helmet, and that's fine. Suppression helmet, you know, standard kind of stuff. The crit damage mod, reduction damage mod, very easy to get on this chest. I have endurance charge generation on my chest, and then obviously the strength stacking for damage reduction because we have a good amount of strength. I use the endurance charge thing because Masterful Form scales, and this gives us basically our 100% uptime on our endurance charge. As you can see, we've got full endurance charges. They self-generate based off that. You get 15 extra duration, and it does round accordingly, so it will proc on the half. So where we're getting an endurance charge every 11 seconds, and our endurance charges last I think 11.5 seconds. It's been a while since I played this character, but 11.5 second endurance charge duration, and then where you're generating every 11 seconds, so it will ramp after, you know, about a minute of mapping to full stacks. Impact, most Slayers use this. It's really bad, honestly, unless you're just getting full mileage out of the accuracy, but even with that, it's kind of a bad node. So, like I said, we're getting all the accuracy from the helmet, so we don't really need this. Masterful Form, very good. Solves all of our physical mitigation that we would ever need. We can face tank pretty much every single physical ability in the game without even pressing Molten Shell, so straight up, we can tank pretty much anything. Whispers of Doom, Additional Curse, Eternal Damnation. You know, we're using Double Curse. I don't remember what our Double Curse is, right? We're using Despair and Mark on Hit, Assassin's Mark. We just manually cast Despair, don't have to hit anything. Ideally, we hit the boss or whatever, but you know, to apply the Withers, which is a bazillion percentage more damage. This also creates a relation with things like Intimidate and what else makes things take more damage? I don't know, off the top of my head, Shock. You don't want to dip too much in that, but we have Intimidate here. It's not that expensive, and it's really easy to keep up. So Intimidate on the gloves. You know, some Slayer stuff with the leeching, and got the Frenzy Charge from this league. Typically, you wouldn't even have the Frenzy Charge here, you just get, you know, maybe like +2 AoE gems or some other Veiled mod on the prefix, or just more life, whatever. Ring, we want big strength stuff. I just Calandra it. You could use 2 different rings, and, you know, pre-helical rings, you could just use like Amethyst rings or something to cap your chaos easy. Clothing, we're Slayer, so we don't really benefit that much from life on hit, but I think life gain on hit's pretty fucking good on this, on the Jug variant, so you could still get away with not using it. I was surprised how much damage over time and lack of sustain I didn't really need on the Jug, so you could use just a claw like this, or some, you know, some crazy claw on the Jug. Spell damage buffs from our Battle Mage's Cry, which is where a good percentage of our damage is coming from, so spell damage on that Veiled mod is what I got, that's fine. You could also use, I think there's a cast damage percentage one. It's about the same in power, but we are using 30% attack speed from the Deafening Essence of Zeal. Big claw, you know. You need to use like some other random thing, but probably Beak or something if you're super budget or whatever, but realistically, just go with the claw as soon as you can. Mage Blood, this build is really good with Mage Blood, otherwise you're using like some strength attribute, like Hunter Belt or some, you know, attribute belt, whatever, synthesize, something like that. But Mage Blood, this build is really, really, really good with the Mage Blood. So Mage Blood, very good. Helps the build out tremendously. And then Alberons. It's funny, this design was like normally like maybe like 5 to 10 divines on hardcore. It's like 80 divines on hardcore this league. It's pretty nuts. We got the Slayer Flask. It just procs our leeching. Gives us a little bit of leeching, and it gives us 10% damage, I believe, if you've killed recently. And it procs our fort, as you can see. But the problem with this, I was surprised, is I haven't played the Slayer stuff in a while, a couple of years, is like it doesn't actually give you your leech cap. You have to kill multiple of these worms, so it's kind of bad. I wish I could full cap my life leech just by killing one worm, but it's not really the case here with Slayer, unfortunately. So, but still worth using over something else. Maybe you could use like some Bottled Faith or some clown stuff, I'm not sure, but just some Mage Blood setup, you know, the fixing things, crit, armor, attack speed, curse. Typically I'd probably run bleeding, the bleeding here, but I'm like on a boss setup probably right now, but switch out your flask depending on what you're doing in the game. Pantheon stuff or life charges, it helps generate this on downtime, then just some PDR related stuff, crit related stuff. This build actually unintentionally was extremely good at T17 content because we can dodge a lot of mods that are really annoying. Melee was actually pretty, melee I think in general is pretty decent at T17 stuff, but we don't have to worry about like reflect because we're chaos damage. A lot of like resistance and damage mitigation stuff isn't too big of a deal. The crit stuff is pretty annoying, but it's all manageable. You can do all the crit stuff if you really want to. And then we have a lot of flexible nodes, like if we want to become immune to poison, it's not too hard to get like a immune to poison mastery if we really want to, or if we want to like bypass all the block on monsters. Yeah, it's a little annoying to respec, but I mean, it's better than, you know, rolling over every single block increase monster map, or, you know, the block chance map on every single map reroll gets obnoxious, so you do have a solution to all that stuff if you really want to do the map that you have rolled, but the only ones that really brick this build, I think, are like cannot regen, big, minus recovery. It's playable, but like, let's be honest, you just cast over, like, you're not going to leech hardly anything. What else is bad? Minus max, we're not, minus max cannot suppress. We roll over those because we're not like some lore weave build or something like that. Cannot leech. Cannot leech. I think that's a mod. That's in T17s, right? Or maybe that's just a general mod. I don't remember. But most mods you can run, other than just like ones that just look absolutely absurd and crazy. You know, like volatile cores do so much damage. You probably don't want to run that map, stuff like that. But this build ended up being pretty nice for T17s. You could do almost any that you saw, but Jug much better at doing T17s than the Slayer. So the Slayer has a problem. Just actually after playing it is. It just has no layered mitigation. Whereas like Jug and some other, like a lot of other popular ascendancies have like evasion or block. This character does have a sliver of block from being dual wielding. It's like, what, 15% base or whatever. You're really not going to scale that. Chance of block attack, 15%. But There's no like evasion built into the Ascendancy. You just get a little bit of generic damage reduction, which these mods, the scaling for Slayer is pretty decent at like fighting bosses, but even things like Uber Eater are really scary on this build, or unless you have a really overgeared setup, things like Shaper can be scary. Uber Shaper and like Uber Elder can be a little scary because there's multiple things that can really threaten your character. And then you just don't have like any levels of mitigation for generic mapping also. It's like, what is this Ascendancy essentially good for? It has pretty good damage, yeah. You know, I think this character is like 70 million DPS. Genuinely, like 70 million DPS, no exaggeration, on single target. Which is very, very high, but I mean, a lot of that's just coming from, I think my Jug variant was like 50 million, but he was so much more well-rounded to play Jug. I pretty much didn't have to worry about anything, aka, you know, except DD, but who doesn't have to worry about DD? That's pretty much every build, unless you instantly destroy all the corpses all the time. But one thing that's really annoying with the Slayer is the leech nodes on the tree are just really, really bad. Like, you would think that you should be scaling into these like maximum total Rika. If you don't understand how they work, that's they all get multiplied through Volpact, which just Volpact by itself is pretty good, but investing more into like this one that gives a lot of leech, and then the leech masteries. The leech masteries are pretty good by themselves, but getting to a full leech, like the end of a leech mastery, a leech cluster to get a leech mastery is just like, it's just never, I genuinely don't think it's ever worth the investment. So, your leech is scaled based off like relative to your maximum HP. That's why I scaled my HP so high on this character versus like a Jug being like 6k HP probably with this equivalent gear. I just dodged all the max resonance that I just really pumped up the HP to get that leech relation better, but actually investing into the leech wheels and the leech nodes, they're just genuinely not worth it. So I'm playing at 70 max res, which is fine. It's with Eternal Damnation, and I have a big HP pool buffer to help that. And then I was just really, I did try playing with the leech masteries and some of the leech nodes so that my, you know, my life gain on hit, or my life per second and stuff like that was like 6k leech, which is really nice. But when you're spending like 8 points to do that, it's just, I can't justify doing stuff like that. It just didn't feel good at all. Yeah. I'll leave a pop for my character also in the description if people want to see that. Slayer are kind of bad, honestly. Jug has the layers of mitigation from the, you know, you're basically never going to die to mapping elemental damage, generic elemental damage, right? From, you know, mobs hitting you. And then you have a crap ton of armor, so Fizz doesn't do that much. Overwhelm is actually pretty annoying and scary on Jug, but that would be the same case on Slayer. You'd be scared of Overwhelm as well. Some of the off or devoted modifiers, whatever they're called, for the mobs having like 60% overwhelmed, the mobs could chunk very, very hard, so that is a thing, but I mean, that's just the game, right? Happy with the skill. Very, 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 very powerful. The best I think I've ever seen melee in the current meta, ever. This is absurd levels of power. There's a reason why, you know, these boots are like 60, 70, 80 plus divines on hardcore, just kind of varying a little bit. But saw a lot of people playing this build, and a lot of people were really happy with the build, so that's good. Melee dual strike, very, very powerful. Maybe it gets buffs next league, XD, but who knows? Might get nerfed. It probably deserves nerfed, but they don't really nerf based off of hardcore meta, it seems. So could be buffed. Happy with this character. Anything else that I want to look at, talk about? I don't know. That's pretty much it. Cool. That's Dual Strike Man recap. GG.